It's week 6 of the Christmas Gingerbread Crochet Along. Can you believe we're here already? It's the final part of our blanket. We're going to be adding our border on. Just like last week, we're going to be working around the entire outside of our blanket in rows, or in rounds, I should say. And you may notice a familiar stitch coming back this week. So we've got a bit of a contrast. We've got a stitch you're really familiar with, and then also a technique which you probably won't have tried before. So in terms of bringing in a familiar stitch, we are using our lovely Christmas combo of reds and greens, but the stitch we're using is actually the exact same stitch that we used in week 1. It's our block stitch or brick stitch where we're working trebles and then coming back round in double crochets with chain spaces to create this really lovely border. And then finally, this is a technique which I think is super fun. We're making tassels and we are crocheting them on. So we don't have to make them individually or not making them one by one. We're working them as we go across the edges in rows. And we're using 2 yarns at the same time, which is going to give us this really gorgeous marled effect. So you'll see on our blanket that we've got 2 of our edges worked in Ladybird and Cream, and then the other 2 edges are worked in our 2 green yarns held together. So we're going to walk through all of those stages step by step and super slowly. Even though we've done this stitch before, we're going to go through it together again. And then I'm also going to talk you through step by step how to create our tassels to crown our blanket. I always think having an extra fun feature on the edges of your blanket it's just a really nice way to finish it off. If it's a lot of tassels for you, and for instance, you just wanted to do 2 edges, then please feel free. It's up to you to sort of personalize it with what you've got left. And yeah, I can't wait to see how you are going to work up week 6. If you find you're looking at other people's blankets and maybe somebody's got a lot less yarn left than you or a lot more yarn left than you, then that can often just be down to whether you're a tight crocheter or a loose crocheter. Obviously, by the time we've worked up our blanket, your tension doesn't matter, but that might just explain sometimes a variance you might see between yourself and a friend's blanket or somebody else who's posting pictures. So don't worry at all. You've all got everything you need here to complete your blanket, to create a beautiful border, and I can't quite believe it, to work week 6 together finally. The first colour we need for week 6 is the Ladybird yarn, and we're going to begin at the corner. So inserting your hook and yarning over. We want to make a chain 3, which counts as a treble, and also a treble into the corner. We've then got a nice easy round. We want to work pretty much a treble into each stitch from the week below. So we want to work 206 trebles, which will take you up to the next corner. When you reach the next corner, we're going to be working 2 treble, chain 2, and 2 treble into the corner. And that is going to be our repeat for the next 3 sides as well. So 206 trebles across the side, 2 treble, chain 2, 2 treble into the corner, and then repeat that 3 more times until you come back round to this corner. So I'm going to make a shorter version, but I'll take you through and we'll have a refresher on the stitch pattern, and we'll look at how we're going to build up our rows for the border. So meet me back here when you've finished round 1, and I will show you how to fasten off and bring in the next colour for round 2. After you've worked all the way round in your first round and you've reached the corner, we're going to work 2 treble into our last corner, or first corner, depending on how you look at it, chain 2, and then slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 to join. We can also fasten off our ladybird yarn at this stage because each round of our border is going to be using a different colour. So cut your yarn, leaving a tail end to weave in. Yarn over to slip stitch and pull through to fasten off. And in the same way as for the previous week, we're not going to be turning at the end of these rounds. We're just going to be joining at the corner each time and then working always with the right side facing up. So the yarn that we're going to need for round 2 is our peaches yarn. And again, we're going to begin in the corner, but we're moving now to our double crochet stitches. So we're going to start this round with a chain 1 at the corner, which counts as a double crochet. We then want to work one more double crochet into the corner. You can now chain 2, and we're going to miss 3 trebles. So these 3 trebles here, 2 which were made into the corner and the first one of the round. And we're going to make a double crochet in between, just like we were doing all the way back in week 1. If you take a little look at your pattern now, you'll see we've next got some instructions in brackets, which is chain 2, miss 3 trebles, and 1 double crochet in between the next 2. And so that will be our stitch pattern for the rest of the round, or for the rest of this side. We're going to repeat that 69 times. So essentially chain 2, skip 3 trebles, and then double crochet. We're going to repeat that right up into the next corner. And when you reach the next corner, you're going to chain 2, miss the last 3 trebles, and then work 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet into the corner space. And that is going to be the same for each side of our blanket, working all the way around. It's just noting as you reach the corner that you will always have 2 double crochets that we're working there. So carry on following your pattern in this way, and I will meet you back here towards the end of round 2 to show you how we're going to join at the corner and introduce round 3. You join me back here at the end of round 2. I've just completed, for the purposes of where we are in the pattern, the stitches in brackets 69 times, and I'm approaching the final corner. So I'm going to make final chain 2, skip 3 trebles, and then we're going to work 2 double crochet, chain 2 in the corner. We can then slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet, which was our chain 1, which counted as a double crochet, in order to join. And do a final slip stitch to fasten off. And we're ready to move on to round 3. So for the third round, we are going to be using our tomato colourway. And again, just as we saw in week 1, as we alternate between these 2 rows, we're now back to a treble row. So we're going to begin by working into the corner. And we're going to work a chain 3 and also a treble into the corner. We then want to make 1 treble into the first double crochet. So these 2 double crochets that sit here below in our corner, in our previous corner, we want to make 1 treble into the first one. And then we're back into our pattern repeat. So the next instructions, if you take a look at your pattern, you'll see are in brackets. We want to miss 1 double crochet and then make 3 trebles into the chain space. and we're going to repeat that 70 times. So miss the next double crochet and work 3 trebles into the chain space. Miss the next double crochet and work 3 trebles into the chain space. So this will bring you up, once you've repeated that 70 times, to your next corner. When you reach your corner, it'll be just like this one here. You'll have 2 double crochets left. So you'll want to miss the last double crochet, work 1 treble into the top of the final double crochet before the corner, before moving on to the corner itself, where you'll work 2 treble, chain 2 and 2 treble into the corner. And as for the previous rows, that will then be our stitch pattern repeat for the next 3 sides. So join me back here. I'll be working the final side and I'll show you this corner, but the same will stand for each corner. So if you want to work through that corner together, keep on watching and I'll catch you up and join you at this corner. So you meet me back here at the corner of our 3rd round. I've just got to the point in the pattern where I've repeated 70 times, miss 1 double crochet and work 3 trebles into the chain 2 space. And so at every corner we'll find ourselves with this situation, 2 double crochets. We're going to miss 1, work 1 treble into the top of the next, and then we're ready to work our corner. So for our final corner, we're going to work 2 treble, a chain 2, and then we're going to slip stitch into the top of the 3rd chain to join. And because we're changing colour every round, we can also fasten off our yarn here. Ready to bring in peaches again to work another double crochet row. So if you take a look at your pattern for the next couple of rows, you'll see that what we've just done here in rounds 2 and 3 is exactly what we're then going to be doing for rounds 4, 5, 6 and then 7. We're going to be doing a double crochet row, working our corners as we did here, always working 2 double crochets, and then repeating our section in brackets until we reach the next corner. But a little bit like in the previous week, we will be increasing at the corner. So the stitches will remain the same, but you'll see that our stitch count is increasing as we're sort of adding 3 stitches per round. Or per corner, I should say. So continue in this way and work the next couple of rounds. I will meet you back here for the final round to show you how mine is looking, and then we will talk through how to add our final part of the border, which is our tassels. Once you've worked up to round 7 of the border, we should hopefully have something that's looking a little something like this. You can see where we've used our peaches for our double crochet stitches on every other round, and then we've also been changing colour for our trebles. We haven't worked a final round of peaches here, so we should be finishing up with our gentle jade as the final colour before starting our fringe. So we're going to be using 2 different treatments, or 2 different colour combos I should say, for the fringing. Starting top right on your blanket, the first 2 colours we're going to be using together are Ladybird and Cream. And the main thing to note here is that we're going to be working holding 2 yarns together. So you don't need to wind them into a ball, you can just hold them together, and you probably will have a smaller ball of both of them by this stage than I've got here, so don't panic if you don't have full balls. We are going to hold our yarns together and work them as if they were 1 yarn. So for the first row, again with our right side facing, we're going to start in the top right hand corner of our blanket. But if you're left-handed and you'd prefer to start in your top left, then that's no problem. Using our yarns worked together, we're going to join them at the corner. So just as we have been doing, insert your hook into the corner, yarn over but with both of them, and then pull them through. We're then going to chain 1, which counts as a double crochet. We're going to make 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So inserting and yarning over just as if it was 1 yarn. I find it helps to just sort of keep the tension for both of them on one finger, like you would if you were just holding 1 yarn. 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And we are then, in the stitch after that, going to make our first tassel. So the base of our tassel is going to be a 1 double crochet. And then I'm going to show you now how we're going to work through the tassel together. So once you've worked the double crochet at the base of your tassel, we're going to make the tassel itself. Now, we've done this as a step-by-step guide, but once you've made a couple, you're going to get in the swing of it really quickly, and it's a super fun technique. My biggest tip is that if we want really even length tassels, to have some kind of, well, we could use a ruler, but a handy tip that I found was that if you use the handle of your crochet hook itself, then we don't have to pick up another measuring implement each time. We can literally use the handle of our hook to tell us how long 10 centimeters is. So if we want to get really technical, make sure that we're not using too much yarn. My crochet hook is a little bit longer than 10 centimeters. So the 10 centimeters for me is actually sort of where the millimeters are. But if you'd like to be super precise, you can put something like a little bit of washi tape and mark where 10 centimeters is on your hook. And I'll show you what that's going to look like next in practice. So I sort of know now that the top of this tape from the end of the throat of the hook to here is 10 centimeters. So we're going to pull up a really tall loop, and we're going to pull it up to 10 centimeters. So just keep going, keep going, keep going. And this is what I mean by using our crochet hook as a measuring stick. So rather than bringing in a ruler and having to measure it each time, we can literally just use our hook. It doesn't have to be super precise, but if we're getting them all roughly 10 centimeters tall, we're going to end up with the same height tassels as we go through as well. So once you've got your super long loop that you've pulled up, and it's around 10 centimeters long, we are going to hold the base of our stitch here with our non-dominant hand. And we're going to use the handle of our hook now to start twisting. So I said twist it round 10 times. I'm going to do it as slowly as possible to show you, but we're pretty much going to start drawing a circle with your hook. So 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and I am just using my finger. I'm not holding the loop still, but did you see how it sort of slid down my hook there? If you place a finger just to stop it sliding down, and do 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And you can see how those 2 yarns have spiraled together. So we're up to step 2 of our making a tassel. The next thing we need to do is to bring the hook back down to the base of the stitch. So you can see how we worked into the corner, then we had 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and then we made a double crochet at the base of this tassel. So that's where we're looking to go back down to. And I'm going to show this twice. So if we just do nothing, and I'm sort of holding the loop, but it's not essential. As soon as I start to move closer down towards the stitch, you'll see there where we've created the tension, it just automatically twists on itself. But if you want to make it super neat so that it's directly folding in half, I did find I was getting in the habit as I was making mine of just putting a finger here and sort of allowing it to fold. But if that feels like too many things to do at once when you're first doing it, you can simply let it do its own thing. Bring your hook back down to here, and then we are going to make a slip stitch into that same double crochet stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, and then I'm just going to hold the tassel out the way while I slip stitch. And it's that slip stitch action that is going to just sort of secure the tassel. So if you just let your tassel fold down and on itself, it might not have folded precisely in half, but they're super easy. If you just pull them, they sort themselves out and they go really nice and neat. So let's work through that again. My clever washi tape idea is slightly coming undone, but you might have slightly stickier tape. It's a good idea in practice. So we've just made one tassel, and if we have a little look at our pattern to see how that is shown, we had all those instructions in brackets. We had 1 double crochet, tassel and slip stitch. So we made all of those into the same stitch essentially. We can now repeat from our star 74 more times. So looking back in the pattern to where the star was, we had 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And then in the 3rd stitch, we're going to make another tassel. So we're beginning our tassel with a double crochet. We're pulling up a super tall loop. And if you've overshot like I did there, you can just pull it back a little bit. My 10 centimeter marker, and then we're going to twist 10 times. So once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to slip stitch back into that double crochet to secure. And if it looks a little bit like this and you think it's all gone wrong, just gently pull the tassel and it will sort itself out. So I'm going to show you that one more time. We're going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the stitch after that, double crochet in the stitch after that, pull up a loop to 10 centimeters ish, twist 10 times, get some better washi tape. And if you're feeling a little bit more confident with that technique and you don't want to have to readjust your tassel each time, if you try using your little finger and just placing that approximately in the middle, then that's going to sort of help it fold in the middle. And then you can then slip stitch into the same stitch in order to secure. So there we have it. That is how we're creating our little tassels. In theory, if we're using a rough measurement, they're going to all turn out the same height, but obviously you've just seen me do it there. I've twisted 10 times. They do all end up looking slightly different, but given how many we're making across the blanket, don't worry too much about getting them all to look exactly the same. That sort of mild effect that we're creating by twisting the 2 strands together is what's going to give us our fun effect, and the impact is what we see across the whole of the blanket. So don't get too hung up on having them all identical, because as we sort of use our blanket and they move around anyway, we're not going to notice those imperfections. We're not going to be super close up all the time. So you're going to continue with your cream and your ladybird yarn all the way along this side of the blanket, and in the pattern I've actually called that the first row, because when we reach the next corner we're going to be fastening off. We're going to make 1 double crochet into the next corner, and then we're going to cut and fasten off the yarns. When you then come to work down the left hand side of your blanket, we're going to do exactly the same stitches, but we're going to use different yarns. We're instead going to use our Gentle Jade and our Emerald yarns. So we're calling that the second row, but it's really the sort of the second side, or the left hand side of your blanket, and the actual stitches will be exactly the same, and the technique for the tassels will be the same, but we're just using 2 different colours. Taking a look further ahead, you can then see that we've said the 3rd and the 4th rows. We want to repeat the 1st and the 2nd rows for the bottom and the right hand side of the blanket. So you essentially will end up with a red and cream tassel on the top and on the bottom, and then your 2 greens as tassels along the 2 sides. So continue working your tassels. And I promise it is one of those techniques that the more you do, the quicker you'll get, and the more satisfying it becomes as you make your cute little wrapped tassels each time. So there you have it. You now have all the skills and tools to finish your blanket and create your beautiful border. I can't wait to see your finished pictures. And if you haven't finished yet, please do not worry. We've got plenty of time to make it at our own pace. Different people will finish things at different speeds, and that's the beauty of it. It's nice to see the variety. It's exciting to see the people who are still working through some of the earlier weeks. And yeah, just be proud of yourself for everything that you have achieved in making this blanket, and also staying consistent and getting to week 6 if you're watching this now with me, because that in itself is real dedication and just a testament to the shared love of crochet and the enjoyment we all get from it, which is such a nice thing to be able to work through together over these 6 weeks. Please do share your pictures with me as you're continuing to work through. I find it really interesting to see what stitches people favour and which are the ones that they love the most. Some people really love the tapestry crochet, some people much prefer working the bobbles, and some people really enjoy it on weeks like our Christmas jumpers, where we get to use lots of techniques. So it's really nice to be able to share in that with you and to find out which parts you've enjoyed the most. So thank you so much for tagging me and for all your lovely comments. If you do still want to share your works in progress, you can still do so. It's not the end of the cow just because we've released the week 6 video, because the videos are going to be here for you to come back and make or watch as many times as you like. And hey, if you want to come back every Christmas and make our Christmas gingerbread blanket, then you can do that too. I'd love to know if you've made this for yourself or if you're making it as a gift. As I said, I think it's a really lovely modern heirloom piece, and my middle son has already put claim to this one. He says he wants it for his room, so I probably will need to convince him not to use it year round and to make sure that we're just bringing it out every Christmas. But let me know who has nabbed it in your house, or which one of your friends or family members has already requested that you make them another one. It would be really fun to share. Thank you again for spending 6 weeks with me and making along with the blanket. If you are looking for other Crochet Along inspiration, you can check out all of that at sirdar.com. Or if you want to see what I'm up to and what I'm going to be making next, you can come and find me either on my website or on Instagram at Lottie and Albert. And it would be lovely to see you all again very soon. Merry Christmas and enjoy your blankets this season.